Hey, good morning. It's Karen. This is my wrap up for November. These are the books that I read in November. It was a fairly good reading month considering I didn't read as much as I had hoped to, but that's just how it is when you have too many projects on the go and you're still in the midst of all those projects. Right now, I am a crafty type of a person, and I don't know whatever possessed me to make gifts for people this year because, don't have enough going on. So I'm in the middle of a bunch of sewing projects, which kind of take up a ton of time. And I've tried listening to audiobooks, but the ding of the machine, it just spoils the whole audio. And so I just didn't read as much as I had hoped to. So let's just jump into it. I read at the beginning of the month, This Poison Heart by Kalynn Bayron. Here's my beautiful artwork that I did. This was a booktube spin. This was the initial booktube spin, so this was one for sure that I was going to read. And it was not really on my radar. I think I shelved it on a whim. Someone talked about it and I thought, that'd be kind of fun. And oh my goodness, I loved this. This is the story of, now I'm terrible with names, so I'm not going to remember anybody's name, but this is the main character, Briseis, I think that's how you say her name, is, she's got, I keep calling it green magic. I'm not sure if that's what it's actually called, but plant magic, basically. So she's able to grow things, and she has an immunity to poison plants. So she ends up inheriting this estate that belonged to her biological mother. She has been adopted, but her biological mother's sister bequeaths her this estate, and she arrives there, and oh my goodness, there was something about this book. There was that element of treasure where she kept finding secret rooms and behind painting things, and she would find secret gardens, and she slowly learned about her past and her family, her biological family, and where her gift came from. And there was just so much to this that I absolutely loved. I wish I was an excellent gardener, and this just had me green with envy over her ability to just, oh my gosh, I had to look up all of these plants that she talked about. You could definitely tell that the research had been done. Either the research had been done or the author already knew all of these plants because it read like she knew them. It was just a delightful ride from start to finish, and this was a 4.5 star for me. I bump it up to about a 5 star. This was amazing. Please read it. It's lovely. I know it is young adult, but it just if you need just a lovely, just makes you feel happy. I mean, there's deeper stuff talked about in it, but oh, this one was lovely. The second book that I read was The Death of Jane Lawrence. I picked this up because the Literally Dead Book Club was reading it. I don't normally participate in their books. I think I read 2 this year. That was All's Well and then this one. And I did not gel with this one. Oh my god. This was a 2 star for me. It was muddled for me. The thing that Caitlin Starling does, and I think it was just not in the right headspace for it, is same thing with her first book, The Luminous Dead, is the main character, it's very inside the character's head. You are inside, you are hearing their monologuing, you are hearing their thought process, and it is a lot. And for this one, I would say pass. It was scary-ish at the beginning, and then it just kind of went sideways for me. It went really weird, and the main character, I don't know, she's mathy and stuff, and she's trying to do all these brainy, philosophical thoughts on the number 0, and I think it was a swing and a miss. I think the author intended it to be a bit more brainy, and I don't think it went there. And I've read some philosophical fiction before, and this is just not it. I mean, my standard is pretty high, and so this is just wasn't what it needed to be. I was expecting gothic, action, maybe a little of spookiness, a blending of reality. I absolutely got the blending of reality. You couldn't tell, in the description, it talks about how it is a post-World War II alternate era, you kind of get hints of that when they talk about ether. But really, truly, this could have been, I heard people talking about it, they kept saying Victorian, and some people said Edwardian. So it literally could have been any time. The world is flimsy. It was kind of this, like, I would say, just like a cardboard stage in order for these characters to just kind of interact. And everything felt very coincidental. It felt so like the author was like, oh, and then this character needs to do this thing so that this character can do this thing. And it didn't ring true to me. And so, unfortunately, it's a 2-star for me. If you were thinking about reading this one, hard pass. The next book I read was for the Musetta Book Club. This is the book club that I have with my friends. We've been doing it for 5 years now, and we 3 are musicians, and we read books with music as the theme. And the one that we read was my pick, is The Forest of Wool and Steel by Natsume Ashita. And this was, how can I describe this? This is a cup of warm tea. This is the best tea that you've ever had. And it's just, and it's one of those, you are sitting, how do I describe this? You are sitting in the middle of a forest. You've got your warm cup of tea, and you're inhaling the aromas, and you're breathing slowly, and you're taking in all of the sounds, all of the smells, and the sights around you. And that's what this book was. It was very pastoral. It described piano in such a way that I have never had it described before, that it kind of makes me look at pianos differently. And I've been around a piano my whole life. I play piano. I went to university for piano. I did piano competitions. But this made me see it in a whole new light. The idea of the steel as the strings, and the wool as the felt that strikes the strings, and the wool, when it's from a good sheep, a sheep that's lived a good life, it rings true. And the wood on the piano, if it comes from a forest, it rings all of those sounds, and it paints this lovely, gorgeous picture. It's a love letter to pianos. I loved this. This was, now I gave it a 4-star because it was very contemplative. It was a slice of life, and I maybe wanted just a bit more substance. I absolutely loved it for the length that it was. It is a very short book, but because it just didn't quite have enough meat on it, I unfortunately give it 4 stars, which is nothing to sneeze at, and I absolutely loved my entire journey on it. I highlighted so many passages, and I would highly recommend that one for if you just need an afternoon sitting in the forest with a cup of tea. That's your one to go for. And the last book that I finished, this is one that I was working on for a long time, and that is A Choir of Lies by Alexander Rowland. This was a 5-star. This was on my list of I must read these in 2021, and this is the 8th book that I've checked off the list, and this is a 5-star. The first one, 5-star. This one, 5-star. It discusses things so deeply. And the thing that this one in particular discusses is stories, and how stories can make or break people's lives. whether or not they are lies, whether or not they are truths. Are lies in a story a bad thing? Well, they could be a bad thing. The story is of Ilfling, who has just gone through training to become a chant. And a chant is the type of person that goes around, it's kind of like a bard. And they share stories, they collect stories, and then they share stories all across this imaginative realm. And he comes to this village, which is very much based on like Amsterdam, kind of Dutch feel. Everything's, the town is built in such a way that there are dams and canals, and they're close to the ocean, and the town sort of, they work together to make sure that everybody survives any flooding, which is just very timely. If you don't know where we're at, it has been raining these, I don't know what they're called, they're like streams, sky streams or whatever they are, and there's been major flooding, and several of the highways have been knocked out, so this was kind of like, there's flooding in this book. And the way that this is sort of based off of Dutch history is that there's a flower craze, you know, like tulip mania, but these are for the stars and the marsh flowers. And the chant, Ilfling, gets hired to sell these flowers, and basically he gets the town all riled up and in a panic to buy these flowers. And this is where the story of lies comes from. He basically embellishes lies to sell flowers. And so and he encounters another chant who says to him basically, you are using your powers for not exactly the right purpose. You aren't using your talents in a noble way. Basically, you're swindling people out of their money, making them think that these flowers are the most amazing thing and that you have to have them. And she kind of dresses him down, and he has this whole, and he's having his own like life crisis. Now he's like 19 years old, so he's already having a struggle. He is young, and so this book is written in such a way, oh my goodness, I think I should just do like a separate one for this one, but this is written in such a way, if this had just been Ilfling speaking about himself the whole time, I would have stopped reading, because he kind of gets to that whiny teenager stereotype where he just can't stop talking about how miserable he is and how he's been done wrong, and it's just that victimhood where you're just like, okay, I get it, move on, let's move on, get yourself out of that, somebody needs to come in and just shake you. He has written this story down, and that is a faux pas on the part of chants, because chants are supposed to be oral. They take in things by listening and then they speak them orally, but he does the faux pas of writing it down, because as soon as you write it down, it is concrete. There is no debate. And he hands this over to the chant that told him he wasn't being noble, and she basically comments on his story the entire time. She kind of corrects him on a bunch of things. She almost, what would you say, textually rolls her eyes at him. You'll see, like, in here, there's, like, footnotes and stuff, and she comments on everything that he's saying. Sometimes she even interjects her own chapters and is like, okay, this is how it actually was. And she is very dry, to the point. This is what you need to be facing. This is what you need to be actually addressing. You're totally dancing around this point. And it's with her added commentary that it just makes the whole book, it just adds this other level of discussion, because you have two completely different viewpoints, a sort of master and a very newly, I guess I say master, he's not an apprentice anymore, so he's just newly graduated. And it's a really, really amazing discussion over stories and the job that storytellers have. I would highly recommend this duology. I don't know if there's going to be any more, but the first one is A Conspiracy of Truths. Same thing from start to finish, had so much to say about storytelling, so much to say about what it means to be a storyteller, and there's just so much going on that I need to immediately like reread these. These are so good, and I would say these are underrated, underhyped, under the radar. People aren't reading these. I keep trying to look up other people's reviews, and I can hardly find any. I've seen a couple people that say, hey, you need to check out this series, but not as many as I would like. So if you're seeing this, you need to pick up this. It is amazing. Now, it is on the slower side because it is chock-a-block full of stuff, but worth it, worth it, worth it. Okay. That is my wrap up. I hope that my December is just as good. 4 books, I mean, quantity, whatever, but like the quality, pretty good, except for that 2-star. We're just not going to talk about that one. And I hope to see you again soon. And I think I'm coming to you with my, now I already had kind of like a TBR, but TBR for the 2 readathons that I'm in. I'm still trying to figure those out, so we'll see how we do. I will see you again next Tuesday. See you later. Bye!